Hello, witches. I'm High Priestess, or Sophinas. This is I would call a witch tip 911, especially if you are a brand new witch, just devoted yourself to the craft, just devoted yourself to a deity, just devoted yourself to the Queen of Witches, Hecate, covens. Every new witch, and I do mean every new witch, wants to be part of a coven. What even is a coven? A coven is a gathering of witches where they can feel safe, respected, cherished, and welcome. That is what a coven is. There are lots of covens. Most of them are online now because it's easier to reach witches in other countries. But there are still some covens that are face-to-face meetings like that. I prefer covens online because you can meet with so many witches throughout the world. But there is one coven that you need to avoid. You need to avoid this one type of coven. That is a coven, and you know I'm famous for this, a coven that does not speak about real, significant, and permanently positive change and how to go about it. Another thing is you cannot be part of a coven that tells you you can just do a spell and nothing else. A high priest or a high priestess that says just do a spell, just do a ritual, just work with your ancestors or deities or god or goddess or ancestor or familiar spirit animal and don't do anything else, that's a high priest or high priestess that you need to run away from. No, that's not how witchcraft works. That is not how you get real, significant, and permanently positive change. No, 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 no. If you have a coven that's not telling you that you need to do the mundane work, that you need to do what I'm famous for telling you, which is about real world action, that is not a coven. That is a group. That is a club. That is a joke. That is not a high priest. That is not a high priestess. They are scam artists. They are fake. They are phony. They are not anointed. They are not appointed by the Queen of Witches, Hecate. Period. That's it. You have to put real world action into your spells, rituals, hexes, and curses. If you do nothing, you will have nothing. What do I always tell you, witches? Nothing changes if nothing changes. If you do nothing, you will have nothing and you would deserve nothing because you didn't do anything. A coven's first lesson when you join must be, not should be, but must be real world action. If your high priest or your high priestess tries to hype you up about being a witch, doing witchcraft, and not putting real world action behind it, run, leave that coven. Yes, you can leave a coven if you're not feeling it anymore, or you don't feel cherished, or you don't feel respected, or you don't feel welcome, or the high priest or the high priestess is not connecting with you. If the high priest or the high priestess is not working for you, they're not talking to you about how to do real world action. How you do real world action is simple. Just like when you do a spell to get a job, guess what? You still have to apply for the job. You still have to be qualified for the job. The job is not going to knock on your door. Just like when you do love spells. Mr. or Mrs. Right is not going to break into your house. Do you want somebody to break into your house and say, that's my soulmate, that's my boo, that's my man, that's my woman, that's my girl, that's my chick? No. No. A coven that does not speak about real world action is not a coven. It's not enough to just focus on the phases of the moon, focus on a particular god or gods, or even focusing on Hecate. Hecate wants you to put real world action behind your spell work. When the queen sees you putting real world action behind your spell work, she will always, and I do mean always, add her strength to your own, to maximize your spells, to make your spells actually work. But a coven that uses cute words, flowery language, just to keep you in, and you don't see any change happening in your life, you cannot be part of a coven and not see any change in your life. You can't be part of a coven that says, yes, you can have that card, anything that you want, and you don't see that within a year of being in that coven. That is not a high priest. That is not a high priestess. It's a liar. She's a liar. When you are a part of a coven, things in your life must change. They must change. You must not be, you cannot be in the same spot you were, in the same place you were before joining a coven. If you are in the same place and you have been a coven for a year, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. It should not take a year for things to start to go in your way once you be a member of a coven. What's the holdup? When you become a witch, you take full responsibility for yourself. There is no devil to blame for your problems. You take full accountability for yourself. When you take full accountability for yourself, that is when you really start to see real world action. That is when you finally experience magic. That is when you finally no longer, for some of you witches, go through life the hard way. Because when you are a witch, you should not be going through life the hard way. You should not be going through life the hard way. When you become a witch, your life should become easier. It has to become easier. It has to be. Because when you become a witch, you take control over your own life. And a coven that's not giving that to you is not a coven. It's a group. It's a meeting. It's nothing. It's nothing. Nothing's happening. And you have the right to confront, address your high priest and high priestess and says, what's happening? Why am I hearing that I have to put real world action? I've never heard of that. You've never talked about real world action. Is that the reason why I'm still poor? Is that the reason why I'm still a loser? Let me say it just like that because it's true. It's true. Confront your high priestess. Confront your high priest and ask them why they are not talking about real world action. You know why they are not talking about real world action? Because they are more interested in your membership fee than you actually having real significant and permanently positive change. That's fucked up. That's fucked up. Yeah, there may be a fee to be part of a coven, but there has to be real world action happening. And any area of your life that you want real, significant, permanently positive change, the high priest or the high priestess should be an expert on it. They should tell you how to make your money spells work. They should tell you how to make your love spells work. They should tell you how to get that promotion, that career, that car, that house. All of this might sound materialistic. No, it's not materialistic to want a house. It's not materialistic to want a car. That's what you want, right? And what do I always say about gatekeeping? You can't tell another witch what to do with their powers. You can't tell another witch what they should be casting spells for, because the craft is different for every witch that practices it. It's not materialistic to want material things. It's not. You want a car? Okay, then do a spell to get a car, and then you put real world action behind it. Too many witches, too many high priests, and too many high priestesses, they don't focus on materialistic things. It's not materialistic to the witch that wants a house, that does not want to live in a project anymore, that does not want to be living in a shelter anymore. That's not materialistic to that witch. That's something that they want. That's a desire. That's a need. And like I just said, you cannot tell another witch what to do with their own craft, because it's different for every witch that practices it. It's different for every witch that practices it. So if you watch this video live and your high priest or high priestess is not talking about real world action, that's a coven that you need to get yourself out of, that you need to avoid. Get yourself out of and avoid covens that is not talking about real world action. Get yourself out. Just leave. You don't, your high priest or your high priestess is not your master. They're not your warden. They're not. They may try and manipulate to make you stay, but ultimately the decision to stay or to leave is up to you. It has always been up to you. Always. Your coven, your high priest, your high priestess should always be focusing on real world action all the time. That should always be the opening for every coven meeting that you have. Real world action. If your coven, your high priest or high priestess is not talking, is not teaching on real world action, they are not a high priest or a high priestess, and that is not a coven. And I really needed to come on here tonight live and really stress this strongly, because too many new witches get caught out there thinking that they're casting spells, casting rituals, casting curses and pestes, when they are not. When they are not. This has to be broadcast live. And I don't usually go live, but this was important enough for me to come on here and explain to you witches. Even if you witches are currently in a coven and nothing's happening in your mundane life. What do I say? What do I say? Nothing changes if nothing changes. And I will be uploading this to my other social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and do share this broadcast with any witch, any new witch, so they know the one coven that they need to avoid, or if they are currently in a coven that is not teaching, preaching, really drilling into you about real world action, that they need to leave. They need to leave. Thank you guys for joining me tonight, and I will speak to you guys soon. Bye, everyone.